on a cool October night back in 1977. The excitement can be sensed as the famous Lynyrd Skynyrd band gears up for another amazing show. But little do they know, something terrible is about to happen behind the scenes. Just days after dropping their groundbreaking album, Street Survivors, the band hops on a chartered plane, blissfully unaware of the nightmare awaiting them up in the air. Fuel runs out, engines start acting up, and before they know it, they're crash landing. It's a terrifying turn of events that marks the tragic end of Lynyrd Skynyrd's journey. But amidst the wreckage, everybody's left wondering, how did things go from a tale of triumph to one of unimaginable loss? The rise of Lynyrd Skynyrd. Lynyrd Skynyrd's rise to fame is like a classic story of Southern rock determination and love for music. They started out in Jacksonville, Florida in the late 1960s, soaking up inspiration from blues, country, and good old rock and roll. Led by the charming Ronnie Van Zant, the band played gig after gig at local bars and clubs, gathering a devoted group of fans as they went along. Their music had this special vibe with heartfelt singing, cool guitar tunes, and a strong beat that just screamed Southern USA. Before they knew it, record labels were knocking on their door, and in 1977, they dropped their game-changing album, Street Survivors. This showed off their raw talent and featured hits like What's Your Name and That Smell. With its tough sound and catchy tunes, Street Survivors made Lynyrd Skynyrd a big deal in the rock world. But it wasn't just their studio recordings that made them famous, it was their live shows. When they hit the stage, they lit it up, leaving crowds buzzing with their electric performances. They weren't just a band, they were a part of music history. Think about those unforgettable guitar riffs from Sweet Home Alabama and those mind-blowing solos in Freebird. Their live performances were like nothing else. People from everywhere couldn't resist coming to see them play. And as they got more famous, their fan base just kept growing. They were playing to packed stadiums and selling out shows left and right. They weren't just another band, they were like rock and roll royalty. Whether they were on stage or traveling from one gig to the next, their journey to the top showed just how dedicated and talented they were. Their names were getting carved into the history of rock music. And then, the worst thing happened. The ill-fated decision. Back in the late 1970s, Lynyrd Skynyrd made a decision that would change everything. They rented a CV-240 airplane for their tours, thinking it would make their travel easier. It seemed like a good idea at the time. Faster travel meant that they could get to their concerts quicker and keep up with their busy schedule. But flying in that plane turned out to be really risky. The band's management and crew didn't notice or didn't care about the dangers. Looking back, it's clear that other bands chose safer ways to fly, like taking regular flights or using better planes. But Lynyrd Skynyrd took a chance on that CV-240, and it all ended in tragedy. People in the band and crew raised concerns about the plane's engines acting up and it looking run down, but those worries were all ignored. They were more focused on keeping their tour going and making fans happy. Sadly, all those ignored warning signs led to an awful event on October 20th, 1977. The tragic flight. They had just rocked a concert in Greenville, South Carolina, and were ready to head to Baton Rouge, Louisiana for the next show. So they hopped on their rented CV-240 plane, expecting a smooth ride. But things took a scary turn pretty quickly. The plane ran out of fuel and the engine started acting up, despite warnings that had been ignored earlier. Panic set in as everybody realized that they were in big trouble. No fuel, failing engines, and no way to reach their destination safely. The pilots did their best to find a nearby airport, but it was no use. The plane crashed into a swampy forest, tearing apart as it hit the trees. It was chaos as people inside were thrown around, and when it was all done and over, there was devastation everywhere. Some survived, but they were badly hurt and deeply shaken by what had happened. This tragic flight would always be remembered in the world of rock music, as it took the lives of talented musicians and changed Lynyrd Skynyrd's story forever. The devastating toll. The sad crash on October 20th, 1977, shook up not just the music world, but people everywhere. It took away some really important members of Lynyrd Skynyrd, like Ronnie Van Zant, Steve Gaines, and Cassie Gaines. Their deaths left a big hole in the music scene and in the hearts of fans all over the globe. And it wasn't just the ones who passed away either. The survivors were also injured pretty badly too. Billy Powell, the keyboardist, got injured terribly, and Gary and Artemis Pyle, the guitarist and drummer, broke bones and had other injuries. The crash messed them up inside and out, and it took a long time to recover from it. It was a big blow to the band and to the music world as a whole. But even after all that sadness, Lynyrd Skynyrd's music still meant a lot to people. They became even more legendary, showing how their music could stick with folks through thick and thin. The crash reminded everyone that life is fragile, especially when you're in the spotlight. It changed Lynyrd Skynyrd forever, but they showed strength and kept rocking on, leaving behind a legacy of courage and of respect. The aftermath and legacy. After the sad crash of Lynyrd Skynyrd's plane on October 20th, 1977, there was a lot of looking into what happened and everybody thinking about what it all meant. The National Transportation Safety Board looked into the crash carefully, and they found out that the crew didn't pay enough attention to how much fuel was left in the craft. They discovered a number of massive mistakes and things that should have been done better, showcasing how important it is to plan flights well and to keep your aircraft in excellent shape. It served as a wake-up call for the aviation world, reminding everybody to take safety really seriously to avoid accidents like this particular one. In the years after the crash, Lynyrd Skynyrd and their fans went through even more tough times with other sad events and losses in 1986. See, Alan Collins, one of the band's original members and guitarists, got into a really terrible car crash. He ended up paralyzed, and sadly his girlfriend passed away in the accident. Then in 1990, Collins also passed away, adding to the band's sadness and fans' grief. But it didn't stop there. In 2001, bassist Leon Wilkeson also passed away, making the band's circle of loss even bigger. It's been a tough road for them, no doubt about it. But even with all the hard stuff, Lynyrd Skynyrd's impact on rock music is huge and can't be ignored. They mixed southern rock, blues, and country in a way that still connects with people all over the world. Songs like Sweet Home Alabama and Freebird are classics that everyone knows and loves, showing just how much they've left their mark on music. The crash in 1977 was a big blow, but it also showed how strong Lynyrd Skynyrd was. They kept going despite the tough times. And today, their music still speaks to people, proving that their legacy is alive and well. They serve as a constant reminder of the power of music and the spirit of Southern rock that just keeps on going.